Welcome to the class of 2023. We'll get started in just a moment with our presentation. Good evening. Welcome to this presentation for the class of 2023. This is a meeting for current juniors to help them prepare for registering for their senior year, the 22-23 school year. I'm Paula Hebert, and I'm one of the 6 counselors at Claremont High School, and we will begin the program now. This program will be recorded and posted on the website by tomorrow, and we are glad that you can join us tonight. All right, we want to remind all parents and students who are listening tonight that counselors went into junior English classrooms today, save for Ms. Evans' classes and period 3 Ms. Watkins, because we had a fire drill today and we couldn't go into those classes for 3rd period and Ms. Evans' classes. But we presented information on helping juniors plan their senior year. We shared with them the resources that are on the Claremont High School website, and we'll cover that near the end of our meeting. We talked about the editable Google form to make course requests, and we guided them through making course requests that they can edit at any time between now and February 27th, when the course request form is due and final. Later in the month of March, counselors will meet with all juniors to go over the requests submitted electronically, ensuring that these requests are accurate and consistent with their future goals. We want to remind students and parents that Claremont High School uses school links. There is a link for school links in the on the CHS website, and we use school links for sending documents to colleges, but in junior year, this is a very helpful planning tool to identify colleges that may be of interest to juniors, and in senior year, finalize that college list. There are also exploration tools and a whole to-do list in school links to explore careers as well. On the website, we also have information about letters of recommendation and other information that your juniors will be needing as we progress into the late part of this year and to help to launch them for their senior year. When exploring colleges, we hope that all students will be able to visit college campuses virtually and in person as the world opens more and more up post-pandemic. Many colleges have enhanced their virtual tours, so please check out those options. Also looking at the college's social media and student-led activities and events that can help give you a better perspective on the subtleties each campus has as you're looking at potential schools to add to your college list. I mentioned earlier, School Links does have a to-do list, so it helps keep you kind of on track with what you should be doing this year. If you're exploring colleges further, another tool is Big Future. It is hosted by College Board, the folks that provide SAT and AP exams, and their search engine is really vibrant and robust, and we encourage students to try that platform too. We want to tell you about California community colleges because California community colleges have so much to offer students. A student in California can attend a California community college if they have a high school diploma or are 18. Community colleges serve for transfer programs, and students who complete a transfer curriculum at a community college have priority transfer to the UC and the CSU system. Community colleges offer honors programs offering students who have a strong GPA 3.5 or higher in high school access to the best professors and higher transfer rates to their four-year college. And community colleges are also providing work training, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Community colleges remain highly inexpensive, very, very affordable, and certain families are eligible for the Promise program, which is free tuition for 1 year, possibly 2, depending on financial aid need. Local community college campuses include Citrus, Mount Sac, and Chaffee. I did neglect to mention at the beginning that if you do have a question, please utilize the Q&A feature embedded in the webinar, and we will be providing answers on an ongoing basis. Students who are interested in California Community College after high school can apply in the spring of senior year. All community college applications are free and online. Admission is assured. That is the practice of the California Community College system. And again, community colleges are designed to provide transfer programs, career preparation, and personal enrichment. Mrs. Miller in our Career Center works very carefully with students interested in community college, and she is our liaison for Citrus College, which has an early decision opportunity, basically a field trip where seniors get to go to Citrus College and experience the campus firsthand and do the application and move forward towards that. But students can attend and apply to limitless community colleges in California. There's 108 of them. Here is the sampling of some certificate programs locally. You can see that by doing a certificate program, you can be job ready and have an opportunity to grow further later on in your education if that's what you want. The RN program is especially popular at our 3 local community colleges, and nursing programs are competitive, but they can be an access point for being job ready and taking the certification exam to be a nurse, as well as going on for that bachelor's degree in nursing. There are more than 2,500 four-year colleges in the US, and the college search tool in SchoolLinks can help students filter through factors that make one college better for them over another, including issues of location, student body size, major, grad rate, test score requirements, if they're public or private, religious affiliation, etc. We tend to hear more about those colleges that are super selective, that only admit 5, 8, or 9% of their applicants. But there are many colleges in this country that admit more than 50 to 70% of applicants. And we wanted to just kind of share some great colleges and universities that are not with 2, 4, and 5% admit rates. We also want to identify for juniors, the Western Undergraduate Exchange, WUI program, exists for students in the Western states to participate in a public education outside of California, but at very reasonable rates. For students who are looking at colleges, public universities include the UC system, University of California, as well as the California State University system. There are other public colleges and universities outside, of course, of California, but the tuition can be much higher for an out-of-state public. The Western Undergraduate Exchange helps to level that financial playing field by allowing California students to go to other Western colleges, Western US colleges, at a reciprocal tuition rate, oftentimes paying equal to a CSU tuition level instead of the out-of-state student level. Private colleges and universities are abundant throughout the country and even locally. Some are religious, others are non-denominational. Examples of local private colleges would include the Claremont colleges in our own backyard, as well as institutions like University of La Verne and APU. As students are looking at UC and CSU admission, you'll hear the terms A through G completion. And the A through G requirements are those 15-year-long classes that students must take in high school and earn a grade of C or better to fulfill those A through G requirements. And we will go through that information with your students when we meet with them in March for their credit check and to review their course requests. The University of California is more selective. There are 9 campuses. The Cal State University system is less selective. They admit typically 1/3 of students statewide. There are 23 campuses of the California State University system. If students complete the A through G requirements, which is again the minimum admission requirements for UCs and Cal States, many students will find that they are eligible for out-of-state public and private universities. So the A through G guideline is helpful overall when students are planning a 4-year college degree. The Western Undergraduate Exchange, I've already explained, they provide reciprocal tuition in 14 Western states. And this is an opportunity to take advantage of. Over the years, we've had many students be really happy to go out of state and still pay really reasonable fees within the WUI Western Undergraduate Exchange. Private colleges will have their own admission requirements, but meeting the UC requirements will satisfy most of them. If you have questions, now is the time to check with admissions offices and research schools more deeply through your school links access. What else do colleges want? Well, some colleges will ask for essays, personal essays. The UC system has the personal insight questions, which are short answer essays or paragraphs about who you are as a student and who you are as a learner. Colleges often want letters of recommendation. Those are usually from private colleges that need 1 to 2 letters of recommendation from teachers and or a counselor speaking to your learning ability, your enthusiasm for a certain subject, who you are as a learner. Colleges also look for other attributes, your initiative, your self-discipline, your creativity. Maybe you're an athlete, maybe you're a musician. All of those things can be part of the holistic review. Colleges are looking to see how you challenge yourself, so taking beyond the minimum is always recommended in high school. Some colleges really value to see how you spend your outside of school time. Are you in athletics? Are you in theater? Do you volunteer? Those can also be positive factors. And then oftentimes colleges are also looking for first-generation students to help level the playing field to access to careers and financial mobility. As you're looking at colleges, you will see the price tag. Financial aid is that tool that can help lower the cost of funding your education. Federal aid comes in the form of grants, money you never repay back, work study, which is payment for your work on campus, usually above typical minimum wage levels, and then loans, which are not as popular. Scholarships also exist to help defray the cost of your college education. Colleges can also provide need-based aid based on financial need as well as merit. Try not to let the sticker price or list price deter you early as you're looking at colleges. Use the net price calculator, which is a tool required on every college website, helping you determine the actual cost of college for each individual student. You will see that if you can put in the information required for net price calculator, usually derived from your most recent tax filing, you can really see the true cost of college attendance for you. FinAid and FastWeb are also great tools to learn more about financial aid and scholarships. And My Intuition is another college cost estimator that you can try as well. In the fall of your senior year, we will have more information about FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. And that launches October 1st. There will be a financial aid night for seniors. The state of California also has Cal Grant, which encourages high school grads in California to stay in California for college, both public and private. And CSS Profile is another tool that some private colleges need to disperse merit and need-based aid for their schools. For example, Pomona College, USC, they require the CSS Profile to access their private school endowment money. Scholarships. Again, create a FastWeb account. You can create it now. You'll identify some scholarships that are eligible for you now as a junior, but this will grow with you in senior year. And it also grows with you rather through college. So FastWeb is an excellent account to have. It's free and very resourceful. I can even provide internship links when you're in college, which is a great way to get real world experience in college. Local scholarships are posted in the daily bulletin, so keep an eye on that. Please do not pay money to outside scholarship agencies, and you do not need to pay for the FAFSA either. And we'll remind you of all of these things come the fall. And if you do plan to be pursuing scholarships, please plan to have letters of recommendation ready in the fall so that it can support your application for those scholarships. All right, next will be Ms. Berksley.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Just going off of what Ms. Hebert said, next we're going to talk about letters of recommendations. If you are planning to apply to private colleges in the fall, you'll need letters of recommendations from 2 different teachers and your counselor. If you're unsure whether or not the college you are planning to apply to is going to need a letter of recommendation, I suggest either going to that school's website and finding out, or you can always go on School Links and it will tell you exactly what you need for the application process for that specific school. It's really important that you talk to your current teachers about their ability to write a letter for you. We always want to make sure that you are going to teachers that you have a good and positive relationship with. And also it's important that you think about, okay, what do I want to major in? Do I want to major in science or math or in liberal studies? And then talk to those teachers again that you have a good and positive relationship with in those different fields is always a positive. We are recommending that you ask those teachers by May 20th if they'll write your letters of recommendation for next year. Typically, we have many of our students needing letters of recommendations from teachers, and we just want to make sure that they kind of have a running list and know that you need one. Also, you can talk to your counselor about a letter of recommendation, but you don't have to ask us. Your version of asking us is turning in your counselor questionnaire, which I'll get more into in a little bit in the fall. The UCs and the CSU campuses do not require any letters of recommendation. So if you are only applying to Cal States and UCs, you do not need a letter of recommendation to apply to those universities from a counselor or from your teachers. However, some scholarships do require a letter of recommendation. So you might want to talk to some of your teachers if you know that you're going to apply to scholarships that will require a letter of recommendation. So the deadline for the letters of recommendation requests will be Monday, September 26th of next fall. If I could get next slide.
Struggling here.
Okay, perfect. So it is the student's responsibility to know what schools, as I said before, do require a letter of recommendation. The teacher letter of recommendation, counselor letter of recommendation questionnaires are on the CHS website for you to complete already. You'll need to provide 2 teacher questionnaires for the 2 teachers you're requesting, because most private schools are going to require those 2 letters, but make sure you're checking. And then that 1 counselor questionnaire. Now, those questionnaires take time. And we as counselors love getting those questionnaires. We wish that we could have them earlier in your high school career, because we learn so much about you. And your teachers get the opportunity to learn so much about you through these questions. So make sure that this is not something that you're doing at midnight on September 25th, trying to get it done because you haven't done it at all. I talk to seniors all the time, and they're like, one of the best things I did is I worked on my counselor questionnaire over the summer, and it made sure that I was able to spend time on it and be really thoughtful, because your counselor can tell whether or not it was done in 20 minutes or if it was done over the span of a couple days, and a lot of heart and mindfulness went into it. I often say the more you put into your questionnaire, the more I can put into your letter, because the more I know about you, and the more I can tell the college about you. Again, we're going to recommend that you're talking to your teachers by May 20th about getting those, about them writing you a letter for next year. It's not a hard deadline, but we'd really recommend it. All right, moving forward to admissions testing. The pandemic really accelerated changes that we already saw coming with the testing requirements. The ACT and the SAT have national testing schedule. It is posted on the CHS website with the dates and registration deadlines. It's also on the dates for your junior to know that all juniors were given in their classrooms today, and then a couple of classes will get them tomorrow as well. So make sure that you're looking at that. If you know you want to register for the SAT or the ACT, look at those dates. The earlier you're able to register for those dates, the better. Just it's based on availability at different testing sites. CHS is a testing site. However, we do fill up. So we want to make sure that you aren't having to drive to Chino or wherever it might be that has testing availability. So the earlier you sign up for testing, the closer it can be to home. All right, prior to the pandemic, many colleges were already starting that rethinking role of admission testing. Most colleges eased their testing requirements for the class of 2021 and 2022. Many colleges are expected to continue this practice for class of 2023. Not all colleges have released that information yet. SAT testing is not required by California community colleges and no longer required by the UC system. So if you're applying to UC specific schools, you will not have to take SAT or ACT to be admitted into those schools any longer. We are unsure about the Cal State system still. The CSU will announce their decision regarding admission testing in March. Once we know that information, we will get that information out to you guys. It is really important that as you're signing up for admissions testing, that you're putting the correct names on things. I know I have a long and a short name, and I want to make sure that I use my formal legal name rather than my nickname on things, just because it eases. Oftentimes we have students coming in, I can't find my College Board account, which is where they'll register for the SATs. And then we have to start talking, okay, did you use a nickname? Did you use, like, what did you do? So really it's important that as you are creating those accounts, you're not only like writing down your usernames and your password, but you're making sure that you're using your correct legal name. Admissions test tips. So please indicate that you attend Claremont High School. Our College Board code is 050590. And then most colleges will accept either the SAT or the ACT. And students can take both exams to see which yields their strongest performance. And again, refer to that important dates for juniors. There is a version on the CHS website, or students received those today as well. So the SATs and the ACT. The SAT is going to have an evidence-based reading and writing. It's going to have mathematics on it too. And the scales range from 400 to 1600 of the rating scale. Scale from 200 to 800 for the EBRW and the math. And where you sign up for that is www.collegeboard.com. The ACT is comprised of 25% English, 25% math, 25% reading, and a little bit of a bonus of 25% science. So if you know that you really shine in science, you might want to think about taking the ACT as well as the SAT. It's just a little bit different of a test, and it's going to be able to show your capabilities just a little bit differently. This scale is a 1 through 36. There's no penalty for incorrect answers, and there is an optional writing assessment, and that's at www.act.org. If you have older students, you might think, well, what about the subject tests? That was actually suspended in spring of 2021. So the College Board, SAT, no longer offering those subject tests that we used to have to talk about. All right, so let's say you really don't want to have to take the SAT and the ACT. First of all, you're pretty lucky that your class 2023 and so many schools have gone away from testing. But there's a great website called fairtest.org. And on there is a list of colleges that aren't going to require testing as a part of their admissions requirement. So make sure that you are looking specifically on that website if you really don't want to have to take admission testings. Now, schools are going to vary school to school right now. Pardon me. Some schools are still going to require testing. Some schools aren't. Knowledge is power. And so we really, really want you and your student especially, to go on whether it be school links or the school specific website and look and see whether or not a private school specifically is going to need that admissions testing still. Some private schools have, reinstated that. Some have said we're not going to reinstate it yet. So I don't know. There's so many different colleges and universities that students will ask me, and honestly, I have to look it up too, just because everybody's a little bit different right now. So please make sure that as you're talking about next year, have that conversation about admissions testing. And as you do that, look at the schools and see whether or not they require it. Now, I know teenagers like to change their minds a lot. So if you think I might want to apply to this school, but they're the only one that require testing, I would still go ahead and do it. I would have it in my back pocket just in case, because we would hate for you to miss out on applying to a school that could be a great fit for you because you didn't take the admissions testing. And then again, more and more schools are de-emphasizing that test score performance. We tried to talk a lot about that today while we were in classrooms. And so really just focusing on making sure we're having strong grades and a strong schedule. All right, if you receive free or reduced lunch, you qualify for the SAT or ACT fee waivers, and you can come to the guidance office for support with that. We also suggest using Khan Academy for SAT prep. There's so many resources on Khan Academy to really prepare your student for the SAT. And now we're going to have Mrs. Mitchell.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Vogel. Okay, well, again, I'm pleased that so many of you have been able to log on, and I'm going to reiterate that fortunately, this information will be, it's being recorded, it will be on our website, because like we tell the students, we know that it's a lot, okay, and it's not for you to have to digest every single thing in one sitting, but it's good that you're here so that you can see that it's a resource, and you can return to it as you need to, because there's some terminology that you're going to learn tonight that may not be as relevant as it will be in a couple of months. But again, just having that knowledge base and kind of knowing the terminology that exists will help you to be prepared. So that takes me into this slide regarding application options. When students are applying primarily to private colleges, they will notice that they often have different application options. Now, this doesn't really exist for the Cal State or the UCs, but again, private colleges will often allow students to apply either early decision or early action. And the difference between those two is early decision is binding. So that requires you to submit a single early decision application by an earlier date. Quite often that's around the 1st of November. And if you are admitted because it's a binding, that means you must withdraw all other applications and accept and commit to your early decision offer. This is not something that everybody should do. Some students are really set on a certain school. Perhaps they have a history there, they've attended some summer programs there, they've really researched it fully, and they really find that that's a good fit for them. Those are the students who might pursue that early decision option. Early action is a little more forgiving. Early action is non-binding. So again, the deadlines are quite similar in that students will often have to submit their application in early November, like November 1. However, it's not binding. Usually applying early action and early decision will yield a response from that college at an earlier deadline as well. So you'll know your admission status early. Quite often you'll know it in December, usually before we go on winter break. And you still have until May 1st to commit. Regular decision tends to be most popular with students because really by September of their senior year, they're still not entirely sure, and that is okay. You may have friends who are applying early decision or early action. It doesn't mean that you have to do that. It means that you still want to take those next few months to really solidify, visit, confirm where you want to be. And so regular decision might be the choice for you. Regular decision deadlines vary from school to school. Where can you find out information about a regular decision deadline? On that college's website. So School Links is going to be a great provider of a lot of general information, but when in doubt, always go directly to the college's website to see, and they usually have listed under admissions their different deadlines. This is, again, the most common way that students will usually apply, and notifications for early decision applicants usually are around February through March. Okay, next slide. A few more application options are rolling admission. So some colleges don't have a deadline, a specified deadline, or they have a very late specified deadline. And notification of admission for those types of schools is typically within a few weeks. So after a student applies, after a few weeks, they'll get the notification. So it's usually kind of a large window that's not, set in stone, but students can kind of just apply during that window of time. However, there are some campuses that are quite popular. So even though they have rolling admissions, we would encourage students not to get too complacent and not committing to kind of giving putting that application in early enough, because we don't want them to lose out on an opportunity simply because it's rolling admission. Now, for our California community colleges, their application is probably the easiest application for students to utilize. Students will apply in the early winter or early spring of their senior year. That application is online and that application is free, and admission is guaranteed. The main criteria is that students are a high school graduate or 18 years of age. It is not uncommon for our seniors to apply to four-year colleges, but also take advantage of applying to community colleges as well. In fact, many of us have worked with seniors as recently as last week who are still waiting for admission decisions. They're waiting for financial aid information. And in the meantime, they're applying to community colleges because they don't know what those responses are going to be, and they want to have as many options as possible. Okay, so a little bit about sports in college. The website that's listed on this slide is the website for the NC2A, the clearinghouse that students would need to apply to if they are planning to attend a college and do Division I or Division II sports. This is the website of the Eligibility Center. When your student meets with his or her counselor starting next week for their individual credit check, this is important information for them to let us know. So we're going to be looking to see that they're meeting their grad requirements. We're going to be looking to see that they're meeting those A through G college requirements. If your student is planning to do sports, that's something that we want to know also, because there's a set of criteria that we'll get to in just a moment that we also want to keep an eye on. So I would say on average, the majority of my seniors are not necessarily attempting to do this, but I do have some. And the ones who are attempting to do D1 or D2 sports, I want to make sure that they're taking the appropriate coursework. Here on the slide that you can see, there is a fee that's associated with registering for the clearinghouse. And again, as Ms. Vogel said in the previous slides, if your student qualifies for free or reduced lunch, that fee can be waived. So it is important for students to communicate that information to their counselor. Also on the slide is the code that you would send SAT or ACT scores to when you're requesting scores to be sent to the NC2A clearinghouse. Next slide, a little more information about NC2A eligibility. Just note that that certification process starts in the 11th grade. So technically spring right now in the 11th grade years when they start. And again, the website is listed there. There is a minimum GPA that's required for core in their core curriculum of 16 approved classes for D1 and a 2.2 GPA for curriculum for Division II schools. Next slide, please. Now, this slide is also can also be found on our website when students, and we directed them in class today how to find their graduation college requirement comparison chart. So there's actually a chart on our CHS website under the counseling link that shows the coursework that's needed to be eligible for NC2A. What's nice is that there is quite a bit of overlap with the A through G requirements for four-year colleges, but it is not identical. So again, that's another reason why it's really important for students to convey to their counselor if they are attempting to meet the NC2A requirements. Students, it's really important for you to know what you're trying to do, okay? We are wanting to empower you. So in your classrooms today, we're giving you this information, and we're giving this information to you tonight because you need to know what you're attempting to do. There are only a handful of students who are necessarily trying to do NC2A. I need you to be aware of that because what sometimes happens is in the fall, students will come in and they will want to drop certain classes that look like they aren't necessary for graduation and they aren't necessary for A through G. But students, if you selected that course with your counselor in the spring of your junior year because you were thinking about NC2A, it's really imperative that you remember in the fall, there's a reason why you selected these courses. So I really want to encourage you and your families to be really careful about the courses that you're selecting. We're going to help you choose the right courses, but when you start changing things and dropping things, realize that that might be taking you out of alignment with NC2A. Next slide, please. All right, so let's move on into our graduation requirement, that technical education challenge exam. So students must have a tech ed requirement met in order to graduate. Many of our students have already fulfilled that. They may have taken the course at ROP, or they may have already taken that single semester course here at CHS. One way to fulfill that requirement is by examination, and the exam is offered about 3 times a year. There should be another exam that's coming up in the spring. You'll be able to sign up electronically to take this test at least 8 days before the exam. And this slide shows you the skill set that you would need in order to be successful in passing the challenge exam. This does not go on your transcript. A student can take the challenge exam. And if they don't pass it, it does not hurt them in terms of their GPA, but they would then be encouraged to sign up to take the course. Next slide, please. All right, so let's talk a little bit about volunteer opportunities. Now, CHS does not have a volunteer requirement. That question often comes up, do I have to volunteer? Well, you don't have to volunteer to graduate, but good reasons to volunteer are just because it's kind of a good thing to do. And it's teaching you, I think, how to be a good citizen, a good community citizen, a good global citizen. And so it's just developing you as a whole well-rounded individual when you consider ways to volunteer. You will also notice, of course, that in many college prompts and many essays or responses that you have to give to your colleges, a lot of the questions will ask about things that you've done outside of the classroom. So that could be activities, extracurricular activities, but some prompts really do look to see what kind of an individual are you in terms of what you're giving back to your community. Volunteering is also a very valuable way for you to start to decide what kind of a college major you might want to pursue or what kind of a career pathway. So when you are volunteering at a senior center, volunteering with young people, volunteering at an animal shelter, volunteering in a business office, you're learning skills about yourself. You're learning your aptitudes. You're learning about the things that bring you joy and that make you curious. So there are many different reasons why you should consider volunteering, even though it's not a graduation requirement. On this slide, you will see different ways or different organizations that you can pursue in order to have those chances to volunteer. Next slide. All right, summer is coming. And so students often wonder, what should I do in the summer? So these are just a few tips for you as far as how you can use your summer. You can take a summer school class, and again, we'll address that a little bit more. Summer school registration forms will be available soon. Please note the classes that are listed here are the ones that we will be offering. Many of our summer classes are for remediation. However, these are courses that students can take. Government, economics, pre-calculus, and chemistry can all be taken as original credit in the summer. And like I said, summer school is primarily for students to remediate a low grade, so a D or an F that's needed for remediation for graduation or A through G college admission. So other things that you can do besides summer school, because you don't have to take summer school to still enrich yourself as a person, as a student. One thing that we encourage you to do is to go on college tours. They can be virtual or actual. Fortunately, we're moving hopefully into a space in which more of those actual tours can happen. And I would say that's one of the best ways to really start to get excited and start to think about the kinds of questions that you want to ask yourself as you're pursuing a college. Being on that campus and seeing what it looks like and how you feel in that space is a really good opportunity. As I said before, volunteering is a great way to spend your summer. Getting a job, that's a really valuable way to, again, learn skills, kind of fine tune what you want to do and kind of decide what you don't want to do, and earn some extra money. If you are offered a job, you want to make sure that you do visit Mrs. Miller in the Career Center so that you can secure a work permit. And also, please, students, use this summer to work on that teacher and counselor questionnaire. That is not a hard document, but it does take time if it's thoughtful. And we don't want to see you running in at the last minute, turning in something, feeling that you didn't have time to prepare when we are telling you about it on February 17th, okay? All right, next slide, please. All right. Outside coursework. In a nutshell, I will say that there are lots of factors that go into what a student takes outside of our campus. And we have to be really careful that students don't take coursework that really won't come back and be useful for them. Not all courses are accredited the same way that their CHS courses are. Not all outside courses are aligned to prepare them for next levels. So when students are seeking to do outside coursework, as a counselor, we're thinking about, is that really going to prepare them when they reintegrate back into CHS? So I would say, please, we're not encouraging it, but if there are courses that are specific that you're wanting to take, that's a conversation that needs to be had with your counselor. Next slide, please. All right, so let's talk a little bit about IB and AP coursework. These are some of our more rigorous pathways here at Claremont High School. Now, IB students work alongside their counselor as well as Ms. Sieg, the IB coordinator. So in fact, when we were in classrooms today, our IB students were able to see the additional form that they will fill out as they're making their selections for senior year. But in general, just to understand how to go about selecting these courses, just know that they're both very rigorous, that each of those courses, IB and AP coursework, does receive a weighted GPA. So a C or better in any one of those courses does get an extra point. A C is weighted as a B is weighted as an A, and an A does get 5 points. You want to make sure that you go onto the website and check the prerequisites. So when you're selecting your AP or IB courses, they're generally prerequisites as far as previous coursework and previous grades earned in order to qualify to take those classes. Many colleges do grant credit for passing IB or AP exams, but not all colleges operate with that same premise. Some colleges might use those scores to waive coursework that you need. Other colleges might say, we're not going to waive your actual college coursework, but we will use those scores as far as placing you in higher levels. So again, it goes back to you researching the colleges that you're interested in applying to. Okay, next slide, please. All right, ROP, our Regional Occupational Programs. And we are fortunate in that we do have new ROP classes. And so I know in the classes that I visited today, we really highlighted the fact that there are more opportunities than we have had before for students to take advantage of ROP. The ones listed at the top of this slide are those that are here at CHS. In particular, our students who are in sports medicine, though they may be excited to know that there will actually be a level 2 of that course next year. So we've got lots of great opportunities for our on-campus ROP classes. Now, students who are interested in some of the classes that are listed at the bottom half of the slide, please note that these are the courses that are held outside of CHS. So you're responsible for transporting yourself. You're responsible for signing up for those classes with Miss Miller in our Career Center. So again, CHS is given limited spots for some of these programs. So whether it's welding or nursing or dental assisting, again, we share spots with other schools in our area. So please see her if you're interested in pursuing any of those so that she can get your name down and keep you aware of what you need to do for next steps. Next slide, please. All right, our favorite topic, grades. So again, as we are now into second semester, keep in mind that when you apply for colleges in the fall, you're applying before you're earning senior grades. The last set of grades that colleges are going to see are the grades that you earn in the second semester of your junior year, the ones that you're earning right now. That's not to pressure you, but that is to be realistic about why we want to keep you encouraged, why we want you to take advantage of office hours and tutoring and getting the help that you need when you have questions, because we do want you to finish strong this year, okay? Good academic performance this year is really critical. And again, schools, no one is expecting perfection, but schools want to see upward trends. They want to see that students are challenging themselves appropriately and that they're finding success in doing so. And so students, we really encourage you to take advantage of your resources between your counselors, your teachers, the resources you have to be successful. Please do so that you can keep your grades up. And I'll also include to please stay balanced with that as well. As you're choosing your classes for next year, please make sure that just because something is offered does not mean that you have to take every AP or honors class. You're encouraged to challenge yourself appropriately, but please strive for balance. You know how hard you're willing to work, and we don't want any student to take coursework that ultimately is not going to be good for their emotional or mental health. Okay, and with that, I think I am turning this over to Mr. Troche, I believe.
You are. Thank you, Mrs. Mitchell. Sorry, I'm trying to go from chat to this. I apologize. So earlier today, we met with every one of our students. Majority of them. We still have a few more to do tomorrow, as we mentioned earlier. And what we had them do is we had them complete the Claremont High School course request form for their senior year. Now, this form is editable. I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second, but it's editable all the way up to February 27th. At that point, we'll be closing the form so that we as counselors can get it finalized and get prepared for those counselor meetings down there at the bottom that start on March 1st and go through March 11th. We will review the course request for every student individually with every student, going over their grad requirements, talking about what they're taking for their senior year, talking about their post-graduation plans and college readiness. All that we've done before March 11th. Go to the next slide real quick. There we go. This is the CHS website. So to get to the course selection website, you're going to select counseling and then course selection for 2022 and 2023. Now, this is what it looks like if you're coming from a computer. If you're coming from a student iPad, students will actually have a menu with 3 little lines to the right-hand side, and they'll want to select that and then click on counseling and then course selection for 22-23. That'll take you to the next slide, which shows the actual course selection website. There we go. And on here, I just want to highlight a few things. The left-hand side, you'll see where it says Rising Seniors, and that's just the schedule that we're on in terms of when students need to have things done by and when we as counselors will meet them individually. To the right, under course selection links, those first 3 are general links. The top one is the graduation and college requirements comparison chart. And this just shows students what they need to do to complete Claremont High School graduation requirements, UC requirements, and NCAA requirements. Just underneath that is the course description book. That gives detailed information on every course offered at Claremont High School. The final link there is the CHS electives options. And this shows a spreadsheet that just looks at electives. Most of the questions we get about classes are about electives. And so hopefully this simplifies this for students in terms of the information they need to know. In the center there, oh, back up one more, sorry. There we go. In the center there where it says planning for senior year, that currently is a link to tonight's webinar. When we're finished with this and the recording is processed, that will be uploaded as a video recording of tonight's information. And then just below that, there are links to all of tonight's slides as well. Okay, let's go down to the bottom of this website. In the lower right-hand corner, this is where students access their senior course selection. And that top link, senior course selection, is what they click on to get into the course selection form. So if we go to the next slide, I think it's on there. There we go. When a student has submitted it, they're coming back to edit it. So if you click on that link, the students will not go directly to the form. They'll go to this page here, and they'll want to edit their response. And this is how students will re-log in. You as parents can help them in the process in order for them to change their course selections. And again, they have all the way up until February 27th to do this. So they can change it as many times as they want. When students change it, we talked about this with them in class, it's important that they go all the way through the form and hit submit. Otherwise, those changes will not be saved. Next slide for us, please. And this is what the course selection form actually looks like. And again, all the information is there. It is a smart form. And so when students answer questions in specific ways, it actually does skip questions so that students aren't having to answer things that they don't need to answer. And students saw that earlier today. Okay, and I think that's it. The last thing on here that we want to touch on is the schedule that will be in U.S. history classes, or that U.S. history classes will come to the library to meet with counselors. And again, this is an individual meeting. We'll meet one-on-one with every single one of our students to ensure that the courses they've selected are the correct courses. We want to make sure that your students are meeting their graduation requirements, but we also want to make sure they're meeting the requirements that they need to get into colleges or to meet their future plans. Students have a copy of this. This is also on that course selection website. And next slide, we are at the section where we can start answering some questions. Now, I know we had some questions in the chat that I didn't get to answering. I don't think anybody else got to answering. So let's start there. First question on here. Can IB psychology count as our science credit for a full IB diploma candidate? Ms. Aber, would you mind answering that for us?
Yes, happy to. Yes, IB Psychology offers HL next year, IB Psychology HL. So that is an option to fulfill the third HL requirement for IB diploma. So if you're currently in IB Psychology SL, you can select HL for next year. Again, if you're a full IB diploma candidate, you do need to complete both the form that was reviewed tonight, as well as this IB specific form that we went over in your IB English classes today, to ensure that we accurately record what your plan is for IB diploma. The IB diploma form also goes through Mrs. Sieg to ensure adherence to, you know, making sure you fulfill that IB diploma. And we're happy to answer questions about that too in the office.
Okay, and we got some more questions coming in. Next question. Are there any requirements I need to know before graduating and enlisting in the Army?
So all 4 branches of the military do want to see a high school diploma. So do make sure that you're following up with your counselor at that meeting through your U.S. history class coming up in March, so that we can make sure all your targets are met. As a rule, what was known as the GED, now known as the HiSET, is not something the branches want. They really do like to see that high school diploma.
Excellent. Thank you, Mrs. Aber. Where can I find a list of ROP courses available?
The ROP courses that we offer at CHS are listed on your course request form. So classes like sports medicine, stage tech, business management, and a brand new ROP class called Introduction to Behavioral and Mental Health, which will start next year, are all on your course request form because they're all provided at our campus. ROP does host other classes off campus, and you can see that on the Baldy View ROP website. You can also talk to Mrs. Miller in the Career Center, which is in the library, to see if there's some other courses like maybe the HVAC courses interest you, and see how that could fit into your high school schedule next year. But those are off campus.
I will also add, I just posted a link to that question in the chat. that will take you directly to the Baldy View ROP website, where students can check out those classes that are offered off campus, not at Claremont High School.
So another question here, is English 101 transferable to Chaffey College or just Citrus? So the English 101 class that's offered at Claremont High School is a Citrus College course. It's called a dual enrollment course because students will earn credits both at Claremont High School and at Citrus College. Now, Citrus College credits are transferable to Chaffey College. So if a student wanted to go to Chaffey College after they finished Claremont High School, the credits that they earned through Citrus College would absolutely transfer to Chaffey. Next question. My student was absent today. What would be the process for an absent student?
I would suggest your absent student come and get some paperwork that we provided in the classroom, and then talk with their counselor during office hours or lunchtime in the next few days, just to make sure that they understand the process. We went over the process together in the classroom, and we can also provide that to any students who were absent today. But the process is pretty much digital and outlined on the website.
Absolutely. And we are glad to help any student out during office hours or lunchtime. And if we need more time, we'll find some time for that for those students. But again, reiterating what Mrs. Aber said, have your student come in and see the counselor. We will be glad to help them out with that. Okay. Is there an issue with taking 5 classes one semester next year if you have fulfilled all the requirements but are seeking to enroll in a 4-year college? Ms. Mitchell, if you're still there, I know you have a great answer for this. Would you mind answering that one?
Sure, my lights just went off, so just let me dance.
Sorry.
Okay.
We had this question quite a bit today. That's why I'm bringing
Yes.
that up.
Okay, so I think the question is whether you can take 5 classes. So that's a really good question, and it's very dependent on the student and the student's plans and goals. So in other words, we're telling students, please select 6 courses. When they do their online form, they're selecting 6 courses. In our one-on-one meeting with them, when I can see that a student is taking a very heavy load, so for example, I might have a student who's taking 3 AP courses. Maybe they're taking a theater class or another class that is going to have outside demands. And maybe the student's also going to be getting a job or taking an ROP. That would be a case in which I would want to find out what schools are you applying to. Let's assess whether or not it's more advantageous for you to go ahead and let's minimize your day so that you can balance this. Because again, a college is going to see the reason why you have 5 classes. If it's a student who's selecting 5 classes because they're watering down their schedule, whether they're applying to a 2-year or a 4-year college, we're never going to encourage that. We want to keep our rising seniors in the mindset of, you're in school to learn skills. You're in school to learn habits. You're in school to kind of propel yourself to the next level. It's really not a chance to or time to kind of back off of learning, but really to engage with the learning process. And so sometimes there are valuable reasons to have 5 classes, again, for the reason I gave before. So we like to talk to students to see what their rationale is so that we can then say, okay, this makes sense. We don't need to put you in a random elective when you're doing these kinds of activities and having this kind of course load. So hopefully that answers that question.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell.
Sure.
Next question, is English 101 the 1 semester community college class that counts for 2 semesters, and is it still available at CHS? Yes, English 101 is a Citrus College dual enrollment course. So when a student takes English 101 in their senior year, they will take it for 1 semester. That 1 semester will earn them 10 credits of English at the high school and will earn them 4 units of transferable college credit as well. Next question, what science course would you recommend as a senior if I'm currently taking AP biology? I would want to talk with you individually about that because I'd want to see what other courses you've taken. So I would encourage you, whoever asked that question, come in and see your counselor. We would be glad to see you during office hours and lunchtime and touch base with you on that.
Mr. Chosh, I also want to add to that. We really talked a lot about with our students that We've given you a ton of resources. And now is the time, sorry, I'll turn my camera on there. Now is the time for you to do that research. So we have the course description book. We have the entire elective list, and it gives you that description. So ultimately, too, it comes down, where are your interests? What do you like? Do you meet the prerequisite? And that's all research that you can be doing right now. Because I can tell you, you know what, you should take AP Chem. You may not like AP Chem. So we offer a ton of different science classes. What I'd like you to do is go to that course description and start looking at what we have to offer. I think is a great place for you to start. And then you can always come in and talk to your counselor as well.
Next question. Are there any options for cross course registration in senior year with local colleges, HMC, Pomona, etc.? I'm going to turn this back over to Mrs. Abear, again, who is our expert on this part of things.
All right, so the agreement that Claremont High School has with the Claremont colleges is they will allow a student to take a course on their campus if they have exhausted our offerings at the high school. So the most readily chosen option for students at CHS to take a Pomona College class is those students who are in Calc BC as juniors, or this year IB Math AAHL. So I am working with Pomona College to identify a placement test date for students who are in that situation, finishing Calc BC, Math AAHL, to take the placement test for Calc 3 in the fall. For other courses, unless you've exhausted our curriculum, and that's pretty hard to do in other subject areas, they will not allow enrollment on their campus.
Thank you. Next question. From your knowledge, would colleges prefer English 101 or AP Literature?
I don't mind taking that one. I think it kind of goes back to what Ms. Cizik just said. And seniors, you're gonna realize that the beauty of senior year is also kind of the terror of senior year is that, you know, there's not really a right or wrong answer in a lot of cases. A lot of times it really depends on what your interest is. Now, in that particular case, those are both classes that could potentially give you college credit. So English 101 is a college class. AP, I think it was AP Literature, that was the class in question, that would require you to take the AP exam, AP Literature exam, and potentially earn college credit that way. So they're both rigorous courses. Keep in mind too, with English 101, that is a single semester course. So you're getting a full year of worth of English credit in a semester. The pace of that for some students is just fine, but the pace of that for other students may feel rushed. So if you feel that the course needs to be stretched out over the course of the year, perhaps AP Literature is more comfortable. It's more similar to what you've experienced maybe in the AP Composition course. So there's not really a right or wrong for that. And largely to it might depend on the colleges that you're applying to. Some schools would see both of those options as very rigorous courses. So sometimes it's somewhat college specific. Both would be excellent options if you are so inclined, but I don't know if anybody had anything else to add to that.
I can add to that. Actually, I actually have a little inside scoop. My next door neighbor actually is a reader, application reader for UC Irvine. And we've had this discussion, and she said they look at IB, English, AP English, and English 101 exactly the same. So it's not that one is better than the other. They really evaluate those as being the same.
Thank you. Next question, will summer classes be offered online? The answer to that is yes and no. Some of them will be, some of them will not be. The summer school form is actually out right now. It is not listed on the website. We're hoping it will be very soon, but it is listed within our course request form. So if you are looking at the course request form that the Claremont High School has provided, there is a link to complete the summer school pre-registration form. So yes, they're online and some are not online, some are in person.
And in today's paperwork that went with all juniors in their English classes, there is a QR code for the pre-registration summer school form too.
Perfect. Perfect. Next question. I'm I'm a junior in integrated math 3. If I do pre-calculus in the summer, do I have to take math in, I'm guessing it means next year? I would say that depends. Pre-calculus, you've already met your minimum requirements for graduation at this point, and also the requirements for Cal States and UCs. I would want to know what you're interested in majoring in, because if you want to major in a science or engineering, I'm going to encourage you to keep moving in math. I think that was beneficial to you. If you choose to major in a humanities field, maybe you don't need to. And that's a conversation you'd want to have with your counselor when we actually meet with you individually. But I would think of it from a perspective of what's the best thing for you down the road when you're going to college.
If I can add one piece to that, keep in mind that many of you will be, when you start college in 2023, right? 2023, you'll be taking a math course. Whether you're a math major or not, many of your classes that are general education courses, they may have some mathematical component. What you're asking is, can I please sit out of a full year of math and then jump back into it when I start college? And you have to ask yourself, is that breach or that break in continuity going to be the most academically sound thing to do? So for that reason, consider carefully if you're wanting to do the pre-calculus in the summer, or if you want to go ahead and take the year to do it, because chances are it may still be advantageous for you to take math. And as your counselor, we're going to ask you, what are you taking instead or in place of it? Again, senior year is not a time to water your schedule down. So just be aware of that.
And
Next question. Sorry, go ahead.
Last input. Unless you are loving math 3 and getting straight A's and finding it very easy, I would not recommend taking pre-calculus in the summer, because we basically shrink 36 weeks of learning math into 3. And that goes very, very quickly, 6 weeks total for summer school, and it's a super rapid pace. And also to the guidance, as was indicated, colleges look really carefully at your senior year. They don't want to see early signs of senioritis, even if you do a summer math class. So that would be another point to consider for summer math pre-calc.
Okay. Next question. If I were not taking a science as a rising senior, what would be filled in on my schedule? So if you're not taking a science, you will be asked to add 2 additional electives choices as part of the form. That does not show up unless you select that option to not take a science. When you select that option, you'll be asked to add 2 more elective spots, or 2 more elective choices. So it'll be an additional elective there. Okay. Do private schools participate in the interregional wiki program for in-state tuition?
No, they do not. It's only public schools participate in the WUI.
Thank you. Let's see here. Can you talk about gap years and how colleges feel about deferrals?
Gap years are getting more and more popular. Certainly the pandemic, I think, encouraged a little bit more of that. The question is how you're going to manage your gap year and what you plan to do with that gap year. How will it be a meaningful experience that will prepare you better for your learning in college? In terms of the gap year planning, most students benefit from applying in the fall of their senior year to college with the expectation that if they get admitted, they'll ask for a gap year. That is much easier to coordinate the applications when you're a senior in high school versus being out of high school for a year or possibly longer. We have really struggled with those students who apply a year later. Getting all the working pieces together is its own little minuet dance, very delicate and very complex. And we want to make sure we get it right. So talk to your counselor about your gap year plans, but generally speaking, you are in a better position to apply fall of your senior year, knowing that you may ask for a gap year later on once you know your admission decisions.
Excellent, thank you. Next question, this will be for our resident Link Crew expert, Mrs. Bergsling Vogel. How do I get involved in Link Crew?
All right, so every year, teachers actually recommend students to be a part of the Link Crew program. If you are recommended, then you will get an invite to be able to apply to the program. There is a small application process. From there, there is a small interview process, and we accept students that way.
Excellent, thank you. Any other final questions for the chat? Okay. Again, we want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you coming out tonight. I'll remind you that this presentation, along with the slides, will be available on the Claremont High School website under the course selection website. Thank you again for joining us. Have a wonderful evening.